Melinda Gates from the Gates Foundation charity was fundraising in London this week. She wants to provide access to birth control, including contraceptive injections, to millions of women in developing countries. She says giving women control over their fertility will empower them and save millions of lives. But has easy access to contraception been unanimously good for British society? And is it right to promote those Western values in developing countries? What do you think? One of the world's most powerful couples is challenging the Catholic Church on one of its core teachings, contraception. Melinda Gates, herself a practicing Catholic, wants to bring artificial birth control to 120 million of the poorest women in the developing world, and our government is helping to fund it.
Every single year, 100,000 women die in childbirth who say they didn't want to be pregnant in the first place. And we know they also lose 600,000 babies every year from women who say it was an unintended pregnancy. We can save all of those lives by simply giving them the modern tools that we have today in the UK or in the US.
But the Catholic Church disputes her cause. They say promoting contraception would increase promiscuity. The Vatican says that sex should only be for procreation within the bonds of marriage. Across the world, Catholic clergy teach this as a fundamental part of their faith.
It's not the business of the government to be promoting contraceptive devices. It will be like, the government will pass a law which will fund the promotion of pork eating among the Muslims.
So, is it time the Catholic Church changed its stance on contraception? Would it empower women, save lives, and control population growth? Or is there something immoral about trying to control how many children people have in poorer countries? Are we imposing our secular Western values on people who may believe children are a gift from God? If you've a webcam, you can make your point on Skype, or you can join the conversation on Twitter, phone, text or email. The details are all on the screen. And we're joined in the studio for this discussion by Caroline Farrow from the group Catholic Voices. And I think you're also expecting your child, so congratulations.
Thank you.
People like Melinda Gates, who incidentally happens to be Catholic, a lot of Catholics in this country say contraceptives are a force for good. Why do you object to them so strongly?
Well, firstly, we don't object to women being in charge of their own fertility and being empowered, but actually there's no evidence to suggest that contraceptives do actually have any life-saving effect. Melinda Gates says that she wants to save the lives of women and babies, and that's a very laudable goal, and we would agree with that. But actually providing contraceptives, particularly to women in the developing world, will not impact on maternal mortality rates.
Really?
Well, in fact, what women need, why are women dying in childbirth? Because they don't have decent basic medical care. They don't have doctors, midwives. They're not giving birth in sterile conditions. They don't have decent any antenatal care. What we need is things like roads to clinics, emergency mobile phones. There's a whole lot of provision that needs to be given to women who are expecting and to newborn babies and infants. And providing contraception just sort of circumnavigates the issue.
Really?
I mean,
Jenny, go ahead.
It adds to it. I mean, obviously we need those other measures, but to not allow women to have the right to have contraception, not to educate them into contraception, not to limit the number of children that they have. Kids of 12 years old in Sierra Leone, as soon as puberty hits, they're pregnant. I cannot understand your viewpoint at all.
Well, the thing is, it's not about limiting women's rights to fertility. And 12-year-olds in Sierra Leone having children is absolutely, no one can condone that at all.
So let's give them contraception.
But surely that just empowers the men who want to exploit them. 12-year-olds should not be having sex. The problem is with young marriages and with rape. Actually, what we need to be doing is clamping down on those people that want to exploit the women.
Yes,
but
we
can't just give a 12-year-old contraception and say, well, it's okay if you have
no, I'm not
saying that. Go ahead.
I would second everything you said, that it's not just about mothers and kids, it's also about access to childcare, access to hospitals, access to emergency doctors' assistance. But it's also about saying that if you have a situation, life is not ideal, life is what it is, and if you have a situation in which there are these 12-year-olds, 13, 14-year-olds giving birth, not having the education to know that this is how babies are made, this is what you can do and you don't have to do. I think we must give them contraception in the first instance.
Children? I mean, a lot of these women are having 10,
and
11,
it goes beyond this question of what happens in the immediacy of a pregnancy. It's also that if you have large families, how are you, as the woman who is the head of a family in these cases, it's about how do you pay for them, can you educate them, it's about resources, and this creates tremendous strain financially, socially, personally, psychologically in the years to come.
Caroline.
But then the way we empower women is by education. Nobody is arguing that women shouldn't be educated about sex.
The Gates Foundation is going to do that too. It's not just giving them contraceptives.
But a much better way would be to empower women with something like natural family planning, which, according to the World Health Organization, has success rates. I know you're laughing. It's no.
I'm just smiling, but. I mean, you know.
Well, yes. I mean, it really doesn't work, does it? You're going to say it works well.
It does. I mean, this is no longer sort of the Vatican roulette. And the World Health Organization reports success rates of 97%.
But what about safe sex? I mean, we need contraceptives which provide safe sex. Have you been to Africa? Have you been around Kenya and Uganda and seen the mothers dying of AIDS with hundreds of children there who are going to be orphans?
And it's also, can I just say, it's also about power, that even if we give all the education in the world, we have to realise that women within relationships don't always have the power to say, can you please use a condom, or can we do it like this, or not now. It's very, very difficult. I think that given that this is a crisis situation, I absolutely buy what you're saying, I really do, but this is a crisis situation which isn't just to do with contraception and the right to life and this, that and the other. It's about
the evidence shows that condoms, for example, believe it or not, don't actually work. There's going
to be a lot of dispute. What's your source for that?
Okay, Professor Edward Green, who is head of HIV and AIDS prevention at Harvard University. He's an atheist, he's a liberal, he has no Catholic agenda whatsoever. He was on the ground in Africa for 20 to 25 years giving out condoms, and he said that the evidence showed that it didn't work. There's a phenomenon known as risk compensation, which means that people feel that they're protected, and so they engage in sort of
more riskier behaviour in general.
Yeah, exactly.
But did you take on that?
This is exactly what I was talking about the empowerment of women, though, that even if you have condoms, you don't always have the power within the relationship or within the encounter to make sure that they're used properly and to make sure that they do serve the purpose they were absolutely designed for. But this is why I'm absolutely pro-contraceptive injections, which is what we're talking about here, isn't it?
But the thing is, a contraceptive injection on its own is not going to protect against disease.
Absolutely agree with that.
We only need to look at,
neither does natural child contraceptive methods.
Yes, the rhythm method isn't going to stop you.
You need a condom and you need an injection.
But what we also need is education.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as well,
you've made that point, Karen. I just want to bring in another contributor here, which is Father John Is it Redmond? Forgive me if I got your name wrong. Yes, Redford. Redford. No, well, women like Caroline, who live in Britain, you know, they can choose not to use contraception, you know, for their faith. But why should women in poorer African countries or Asian countries, why should they be denied that choice?
Could I just first say to congratulate your contributor, Catholic contributor, being attacked from all sides. She's doing very well indeed.
Well, we brought you in to back her up, so go ahead, Father John.
That's all right. Now, look, I think I would like to emphasize very much the Church does not say that people should have as many children as possible, that there is the natural family planning, and in fact there is a research group called NAPROS Technology, Natural Procreation Technology. Now, why in the recent, for example, in the recent conference that there was, and David Cameron put his own oar in here, didn't he? Why is it that was the subject of natural family planning even discussed? Because as this good lady said, many scientists are saying it's possible.
But answer the other side, Father John. No, the question I put to you is... No, but Father John, that's not we've moved on from that. Tell me why women in these developing countries shouldn't be given the choice in the way that Caroline has the choice not to use it if she doesn't want to.
Well, because it's wrong. She is given the choice. She can use natural family planning. But what is not permitted is to make a sexually immoral decision, which is to say, to separate, which contraception does, the sex act from the procreative act.
All right, I want to bring in, just a moment here, just a moment, Father John. I want to bring in Maika Van Min, who's the country director for Marie Stopes International in Senegal. Now, your organisation provides contraception to women in this country in Africa. What do the women you meet say to you about it?
Yes, indeed. Actually, mostly the women just say thank you. Marie Stopes International in Senegal is a new program. We've been providing services for 8 months. And we already have a massive impact, serving 6,000 women. And most of the feedback that I've heard is thank you very much for providing these services that we do not have access to. Only 12% of women in this country have access to a modern contraception method. 30% of women express a need for a desire to use family planning methods. So we are going for these women, and we show up, and they show up because they want this and they need this. I can give you an example. Last Monday, Melinda Gates came to visit our program, and we spoke to a 19-year-old Bernadette who had been married for a year, and she was carrying her newborn child in her arms, and she was breastfeeding while we were talking to her. A lovely child, obviously, and we asked Bernadette, why are you here? And she said, well, you know, I've had this one child, and I want to do the best for this child. I want to give her the best future possible, and I want to give my children that I hope to have in the future also the best education and start in life. And for that, I need to space my pregnancies. Okay. And I think that's key for what we do.
Thank you. Well, I also want to bring in Dr. Ob Ide, who's a Catholic physician in Nigeria. Dr. Ide, are you saying that all these women, maybe the women that you deal with, they are choosing to have babies? I mean, these women don't all have the power to say no to their husbands, do they? Don't they need contraceptive choice?
Well, thank you for having me. And the answer to that is that, yes, not all of these women, okay, would have the opportunity to say that I don't want to have this particular child at this particular time with their husband. There is that lack of power in the dynamics of man and woman relationship here in Africa. However, to say that they need contraception as their answer is not right. It's not the answer. What Carolyn Farrow has told you is that women need education, okay? Now, most of the women that you will stop on the road or I will see in my hospital, if you ask them, when was your last menstrual period? Why is this important? How does it help you remain healthy? They don't have even that basic information and basic knowledge to know why they need that information on their fingertips.
Okay, let me put that to Maika then, Dr. Ide. Maika, Dr. Ide is saying, you know, women need education. Caroline's saying if we put more money into roads and healthcare, it's not about contraception, it's just about better healthcare for women.
I actually think it's a question of both. Yes, we need better healthcare in countries like Senegal, in very low resource settings, and we need better healthcare. I fundamentally don't agree with saying that contraception is not part of that, because in a recent Lancet study, we showed that if this unmet need for family planning, just giving women what they've already expressed what they want, we can reduce maternal mortality by 29%, and not just maternal mortality, infant mortality by 10%, and the children between 1 to 4, we can reduce their mortality by 21%. So these are massive health impacts that are due and linked to contraception.
Dr. Ide?
Yes.
There are measurable health impacts by offering the contraceptive advice and support as well.
I am very, very sorry. I have to strongly disagree with you. Contraception is a big distraction to maternal mortality. Women that die every day in this country do not have the ability to get from where they are having an emergency to the hospital because of roads. When they get to the hospital, there are innumerable amounts of delays because the health system is badly put together and there are no resources or personnel to take care of their problem. Contraception is the biggest distraction to helping women stay alive.
Okay,
it is not the answer.
Dr. Edie, we have to leave it there, but Micah Van Min, thank you both very much. Karen, go in there
I'd
briefly.
like to bring up on this point of unmet need. Actually, a World Health Organization report says that 89% of partnered women between the ages of 15 and 49 have ready access to contraception and can use contraception. When they talk about unmet need, they're actually including this women who are already pregnant.
Very briefly, please.
Sorry, women who are breastfeeding. Actually, that figure would include the 65,000 Roman Catholic nuns in Africa who don't want to use contraception.
So you're saying the figures are misleading, Padisha?
I was just going to say, following on from those two people, we need everything. We need the contraception, we need education, we need access, we need a raising of consciousness. I'm very glad of what Melinda Gates said.
Very briefly, Jenny.
I'm appalled that anyone even questions that this is necessary. Of course it's necessary, and I'm horrified that a bunch of male, celibate, childless people in the Vatican continue to try to rule over half the population. It's dreadful.
Thank you. Time for a couple of comments. Demetrius in London. I do believe a child is a gift of God. However, a child shouldn't pay the price of being born when the parents don't have enough resources to give that child a decent life. And Rita, women should have access to contraception. They can choose not to use it due to religious beliefs, but they should have the choice.